everybody. Thank you for
Hello.
Hi,
tuning in.
everybody.
So we have David Randall is our tour guide for the 15 Nations Global Tour, and Darren Kellett is joining us from New Zealand. And
Yeah.
so, David, if you would like to go ahead and share your screen so we can share your presentation about the 15 Nations Global Tour. I've pinned the link for the main 15 Nations Global Tour space page to the top of the chat if anybody's interested in checking that out. And Darren is also typing in to the screen, into the live chat, some different languages saying hello, right? Is that what that's?
Yeah, it's basically saying hello from the nation and what the topic was on the tour.
Nice.
Yeah, I tried to cut and paste them into my Google Translate, but it doesn't let us copy from chat, so was out of luck there. So are we ready for a wrap up?
We are ready. I'm so excited to hear what you have to share.
Yeah, we got a lot to go over today, and I'm trying to get my screens organized. I accidentally closed everything out just before we went on air, so I'm trying to pull everything back up. But we are here on our primary 15 Nations Global Tour page. Is everybody able to see that?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. So today's wrap up, I think it might have said on our schedule that it is going to be the Nigeria wrap up. We're not going to do the Nigeria wrap up today because we are still in the middle of that excursion. We are about a week and a half, a little more into our Nigeria visit. So we're not done with that. We're not quite ready to wrap it up. We got another week and a half to go. Nigeria is going a little bit slow. I'm not sure if that's because of the difficulty of the country or if it's just because people have been busy with like myself, with preparing for WikiTree Day and the symposium. I've not been able to spend a lot of time with Nigeria, but after this weekend, I should be able to put my full effort into it, and we'll see. We've done at least one connection. Um, and I think we got a couple others that we'll be able to make by the time the next week or so is over. But I am going to assume that we have viewers today that may not be familiar with the 15 Nations Global Tour. Usually our audience tends to be the same people that follow us week after week. But because it's WikiTree Day, we may have some people that are not familiar with our project. So I'm going to start at the beginning and kind of give a history of it. And then we're going to consider this kind of a wrap up for the entire tour, which started back in January. And we are now, after Nigeria, we are finishing up the tour and we'll be done for the year. I'm going to talk about what we're going to do for the rest of the year and what's going to be going on next year. So we've got some exciting stuff coming up. But again, for those people who are not familiar with the 15 Nations Global Tour, what we do, what we've been all about, um, I'm going to start at the very beginning and kind of walk you through it and share some of the things we've experienced over the last year. So the 15 Nations Tour was actually started back in January. We had an individual a member who posted a request on G2G asking if we could do a project where we connected the various leaders of the nations of the world. There's 195 nations, and they wanted to see if we could connect all the leaders to the global tree. And that kind of excited us initially until we realized because all of the current leaders of the world are still living, their projects or their profiles are all locked, and our general membership wouldn't be able to work on them. We've got ways to we have ways to work around some of the privacy rules through our project managers, but it takes a project to oversee each of those 195 plus leaders, and that was just going to be too big of an ordeal for us to be able to manage. So we kind of did some brainstorming, and because this is our 15th anniversary, we decided to tie that into the project, and we've called it our 15 Nations Tour, We visited 15 nations over the course of the year. And these are not just any nations, but these are nations that tend to be underrepresented by not just WikiTree, but by the genealogical community as a whole. You can go into pretty much any major bookstore and you can find books on doing your German genealogy, your French genealogy, Scandinavian, obviously your British and American. Um, there's countries that get a lot of attention in the genealogical community, um, including most of the major European countries and Western European countries. Um, what doesn't get a lot of attention are your Asian countries, your African countries, your Latin American countries, uh, a lot of these smaller, the smaller European countries, the islands around Australia and New Zealand. There's a whole lot of countries out there that really get very little attention. So that was the purpose of this, was to try to get a larger presence for some of those countries on WikiTree. And so I was tasked with putting this together. And I had no idea what I was going to be doing in the beginning and how successful it was going to be. But it's turned out to be a really exciting project. Those that have stuck with it from the beginning, I think, have had a really amazing
Yeah.
experience. The fact that they've stuck with it for almost a year now tells me that they've been enjoying themselves. And the feedback I'm getting is they're learning some amazing things as well as I am. So we began our tour. Well, let me add one more thing here. Sticking with the 15 nations and the 15th anniversary um, theme, we also decided that we were going to include each every 3 weeks, 15. When you divide the year into 15 parts, ending on WikiTree Day, it comes to about 3 weeks per nation. So that's what we did, was each nation we focus on for 3 weeks. And during that time, I select 15 notables from that particular country, and our task is to, number one, try to get them connected to the big tree. Number two, increase their CC7s as much as we can. We start out with a CC7 of 0 on all 15 of them, so anything that we add is a major boost to that branch of the family. And then work on uh, improving the profile in general, getting the biography written, getting it properly sourced, etc. So we started with India, and I'm going to scroll down and well, let me just show you our homepage here. You can go to this at any time. We are wrapping up the tour after next week, but the pages will stay up probably, well, at least for the foreseeable future. I am going to talk to you at the end of this presentation about what's coming up next year. We may transfer the pages over to the new project, or we may leave them and just kind of duplicate them for the new project. But for now, they're still going to be up. So here's our 15 Nations Global Tour homepage. This passport here, if members were able to cut and paste that onto their own homepages, keep track of the countries that they've been to. Um, and as we scroll down, here's the list of the countries we've been to. And again, since some of you may have not been part of this project or aware of this project, I'm just going to scroll through and read to you the list of names of the countries we've been to. We started out with India. In a moment, I'll come back and we'll talk about India. Then we went to Argentina. We went to the Ukraine, Kenya, Haiti, Malaysia, Egypt, Panama, Cameroon, Estonia, Syria, Greece, Luxembourg, South Korea, and we're now in Nigeria. So, again, those that haven't followed us may be asking, on a country, let's say Cameroon, what do we know about Cameroonian genealogy? The answer is, prior to visiting Cameroon, we knew nothing, and that's part of the fun of the project. Is we select a country that's fairly obscure in terms of the genealogical community, and we start figuring it out. We do some research on the languages and the religions and the cultures we're going to be dealing with. We do research on where the records are kept. A lot of these countries were British colonies at one point. So you'll find that with India, for example, a lot of the Indian records are held in London because all of the British era records have been transferred there. Uh, so it really is the first challenge is figuring out how in the world are we going to do the research here? And we found out that you can't use Ancestry, you can't use Family Search the way that we typically do with, say, American or Western European research. But we have other sources. We have written biographies. We have sometimes you just Google on um, the individual's name, and you'll get some websites. You'll get um, blogs that have been written. People write about obscure topics, and what's obscure here in the United States or again in Western European countries may not be considered obscure when you're in Panama or Egypt or Cameroon. So there are people there that are writing about these things, and it's just a matter of uncovering that. So that's the first step, is trying to figure out where in the world we're going to get the information that we need. A lot of people, I think, are intimidated by this project because, again, they say, I don't know anything about doing research in India. Well, that's okay. You don't have to. None of us do, including myself as I'm setting it up. We figure it out as we go along. So I'm going to click on India here and show you a sample page. This was our very first stop back in January. And when I put these pages together, I do very little bit of research on the country. I put a comment on here. Geography basically just tells you where in the world this country is located, what some of its neighbors are, perhaps what its capital city and some of its larger cities are. As I've grown with the project, I think I get more elaborate as the weeks go by. This being our very first project was a little bit skimpier than maybe some of the others. Um, the demographics, I talk about what the different ethnic groups are, what the religions you're going to find in the country, and most importantly, the languages that we're going to be encountering. The One of the biggest obstacles with some of our countries was that not only do they not speak English, which all of our members are English speakers, all the members of this project, uh, they also don't write in the Latin script. So when you're in Malaysia or Syria, you've got a written language that we don't understand. So we've had to overcome that obstacle as well. Very brief history. The main thing that I focus on in the history are changes in the actual structure of the country. So in other words, if the country for example, when we were in Ukraine, Ukraine's only been an independent nation since the Soviet Union fell back in the 90s. Prior to that, it was part of the Soviet Union. Before that, it was part of the Russian Federation. It was independent as the nation of Kiev at one point. So it's taken on some various entities, and we need to know that because if we're going back in time, we need to know what the country was called and who oversaw it during the time period that we were looking at. For example, that with Kiev, we have Ukrainians today who are perhaps say my age, people in their 50s, their 60s. They weren't born in the Ukraine; they were born in the Soviet Union, and so we need to know that when we're looking for records, those records may be in Moscow, they may be written in Russian, they may not be in Kiev in Ukraine. So that again, those are the kinds of things that we have to figure out, and that's part of the fun. That's what we enjoy doing about it. Um, so here's our 15 notables for India. And I'm not going to read all their names. I'm just going to kind of give you an idea of the diversity of the individuals. We have, they're all in chronological order. So the earliest born first and the more recently born towards the end. So we've got early independence leaders. India was a British colony up until the mid 1900s. So we had a number of people that were involved with the Indian independence movement, also the splitting apart of Pakistan and India. We had individuals that were involved with that. And that is another example of something where you might have somebody born in India. Suddenly Pakistan breaks away. Now they're living in Pakistan, just like with much of Europe and even the United States. Just because your residence changed doesn't mean you actually moved. So you could very well have been born in India, lived in the same town until your death. You died in Pakistan because Pakistan has now broken away from India. So those are the kinds of things again that we have to watch for. We've had a lot of literary people in our project. This woman here is a poet and an activist, also in the independence movement, and also served as a governor of her local uh, province or the region that she was where she was from. But the point that I would emphasize here is, as a poet, almost every one of our countries we wound up having a poet. Here in the United States, we don't give a lot of attention to our poets, but worldwide, what we did have in the United States in the 60s were a lot of songwriters writing folk songs, basically the equivalent of being a poet. And these poets were very active during the times of revolution and unrest. So it was interesting to see that almost every country had a very famous poet in their culture that we were able to add to our tour. We have here that this gentleman was the father of the Indian Republic. We have sports players. We have the field hockey player. We have a writer. We have a nuclear scientist. We have an artist. Here we have a yoga master. This individual, Ravi Shankar, I had never heard of. When I selected him, I had no idea who he was. But it turns out he's the father of Nora Jones, the singer. So we were able to, when we connected him, we also connected her, and they've got quite a musical family. So we connected several lesser notables along with the two of them. We got a filmmaker and an actor. Here we've got a rocket scientist who became president of India, and then always we included the head of state and the head of government for the country. Sometimes that's the same person; it's one person, as in the United States. Um, but in a lot of countries, that's separate. They have a prime minister and a president, or they can have other titles as well. But we always included them. They were usually the only living individuals that we would have because, again, for privacy reasons, the general community can't access those profiles. But once we get parents or a spouse or somebody, then we can start working on the profiles as a group. Every once in a while, I did include somebody who might have been particularly special or important that was still living, but for the most part, we work with deceased notables. And then finally, here we've got an astronaut. I believe 5 of our obscure countries had astronauts included, so it was pretty amazing to see how many little countries. India is not that little, but some of our other small countries that have actually had astronauts go into space. I, at some point, would like to sit down and count how many countries have actually done that. Um, but we did, like I said, I think we have 5 of our 15 countries that had astronauts. Um, so one of the interesting things about India, as I said, what our job here is to try to do some connections. We only connected, I'm looking here, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we only connected 3 out of our 15 in India. I believe that was because we were very inexperienced at this point. I think if we were to go back to India and try again, we'd be able to connect quite a few more because we've learned some skills, some general skills, maybe not specific to India, but just basic research skills that is making it easier and easier as we move from country to country. But one of the things that I wanted to point out with India that I thought was really interesting, we have 15 notables that I selected. These are all at random. I basically Google famous people from India and just start doing some research and try to find 15 people that meet the criteria that we need. That criteria being that they generally need to be deceased and they can't already have a profile on WikiTree because we want to start from the scratch. So there have been a few countries that became difficult because people in the past have gone through and added lots of notables from certain countries, even some more obscure countries. But every time I would find a notable, I would look them up on WikiTree and they're already there. So there were actually a couple times that I had to even switch countries at the last minute because I just couldn't find 15 people that made the criteria. Um, but what was interesting with India, again, I picked these 15 people as somewhat randomly. And as we were going through, we found, as you'll see down here, we found that they were connected to, I believe, 51 is the number we came up with, 51 other notables. So, meaning those 15 people have a total of 51 relatives who also have Wikipedia pages and are considered notable in their own right. And as we scroll down, you can just see the list here. We're going back to the 1800s. We've got revolutionaries. We've got a lot of musicians. There's a children's poet, a children's book author, freedom fighter, a dancer and a choreographer, a lot of women leaders. We have right here, we have an independence activist and a parliament member from the mid 1900s. Excuse me. Excuse me. Um, Here's a Buddhist religious leader. This woman here, Nasim Begum, was the first female superstar, movie star in India. Again, actresses. We're moving into more recent times. Bollywood stars, a Hindustani vocalist. Um, Getting into more modern times, you'll see. I'm gonna scroll down here real quickly. As we get down here, here you see Nora Jones. Here you see her sister. These are cousins of hers up above, a costume designer, television actor. So again, 51 relatives of the original 15 who are all famous in and of their own right. I hope I'm not making you a little dizzy with the scrolling, but I want to get here. So this is what I find really fascinating. I've heard on several of the other presentations um, how people like to see their famous relatives. It's fascinating to me how far removed we can be in time and culture, and yet WikiTree shows that we're still related. So here we have an individual. He was an Indian reformer and an educator. He was the first person in India to receive a doctorate. And when you scroll to my connection to me, it shows how I am related to him. It's 37 steps away, but that just fascinates me that, again, we're so far removed, so culturally removed, and yet WikiTree can show me in a click of a button how I'm related to him. So that's always fun when we make the connections. Whenever we make the connection, the first thing we do is try to find out how each of us is related to those individuals. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the yep, I'm going to go here. So um, let me see. I think Malaysia was another one that was somewhat interesting in that regard. Um, so Malaysia came a little bit, not quite halfway, but almost halfway. And that was one you would think that we'd have a really hard time because they don't speak English. They are um, they write in a non-Latin script, so the writing is not something that we are familiar with. And again, it's a country that you can't just um, go to Amazon and do a search for birth and death certificates, etc. So I want to show you this individual here. This woman was the Queen of Malaysia. Um, and I want you to look at the kind of names we were dealing with. Now, this is all
Oh
the
yeah.
English version. It was written initially in the Malaysian script. I forget what exactly that is called, but this was a challenge because how do you even put this name into the limited number of boxes that WikiTree gives us? Um, but what we found is as you learn to kind of break down the names, it's really not as difficult as it looks. In Malaysia, they use a patronymic system, which is very similar to what they use in Scandinavian countries and elsewhere in the world, where they take on their parents' names as their surnames. So this word here in the middle, I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but I'm highlighting
Yeah, we
Binti.
can see it.
Yep.
Okay, that means daughter of. So everything after that word is just her father's name. So her name was Afzan, and I'm going to try to pronounce it here, but Rahimahala. Afzan Rahimahala. Little hard to pronounce, but it's fairly easy to understand. Um, I'm just scrolling down here to her name as it's written down below. We've also got this section here that I'm highlighting, um, and that is more than anything her title. So it doesn't mean queen. I believe it means spouse of the king. So comparable to queen, but not quite. But so again, there's our challenge. And as if you look at her father, let's go up here and click on her father. Um, Again, you've got this really long name, but when you've got um, this word here, Ibni, I believe it's pronounced, means son of. So it it actually works as a clue that we now know we can now figure out what his father's name is. Um, and again, if I go to here we are with the Queen of Malaysia, and if I go to our name's so long I didn't even recognize where I was on it. Connection to me, and there it tells me how she's related to my grandmother. Um, So pretty cool. Now, here's an interesting little piece too. So right here we have the Queen. If we come over to this gentleman here, whose photograph you can see, he was the prime minister of the first prime minister of Malaysia, who happens to be one of our other notables. Just by coincidence, she was these two notables on our list. Were fairly closely related, so we were able to connect her through him, and kind of two birds with one stone there. And we found that more than you would think. We had two individuals that turned out to be related just by coincidence. I had no idea when I selected the names. In fact, in one, it was a mother and a son. We had a woman who was a chieftain. Let me see if I can pull hers up real quickly. That was down here in, was that in South Korea? I don't think it was. No, it
Yeah.
was the country before. Where was that? Oh, actually, it's our current country in Nigeria. Yes, so we have here um, this individual. She is um, an educator and a social reformer, and she is the chieftain of her tribe, and in Nigeria. And her son was actually on the list. I didn't realize they were mother and son until we started doing some research. I took him off the list because he's already on here, but he's a musician. Uh, I think no, that's not him. Um,
Yeah, that
Here
one.
it is. Yeah, there it is. Okay. But yeah, he is a musician. Um, again, no idea that this musician was the son of the social reformer that I had chosen from 50 years earlier. But he was he founded something called Pan African music. Afrobeat is actually what they call it, and it takes the African traditional African music and combines it with American style music, jazz, and creates a unique music style that's fairly fairly localized in Nigeria. But then I had chosen another musician in his place, and his name is Tony Allen. And as I was researching him, Tony Allen um, was also an Afrobeat musician, and the two men were in the same band together. They were bandmates and founded the music style together. So again, just kind of you think out of the entire nation of Nigeria, which is the most populous nation in Africa. Um, you'd think I'd have a little more diversity in the people that I was picking, but what we're finding over and over is that famous people tend to uh, they say birds of a feather flock together. That's kind of what we're finding is if you're famous, you're probably going to have other famous people in your family. You're marrying into famous people, typically in the same industry. And it's not uncommon to find numerous notables within a single family. So a couple statistics that I want to give you, and then I'm going to talk about what we're going to be doing in the upcoming months. So we had, let me pull up this space here. No, I'm sorry, let me pull it up off of my. Okay, that was one of the pages that I closed. So let me give me just a moment to pull it up here. Okay, so this is a new page that I have just created, and I'm calling this our 15 Nations Global Tour Travelogue. A travelogue, I used to work at a theater, and they would rent it out for travelogues once in a while. And an individual would come in who had traveled to some country of the world. This was back in the 80s and 90s, and he would basically show a slideshow of his trip and charge people $25 to watch it. So that's basically a travelogue is simply a review of our trip, and that's what this page is. This is a summary of what we've done over the last year. And the first thing I'm going to show you, or I'll tell you, is a little bit about. We have a list of our countries here. Let me give you some statistics. We had 15 notables in 15 weeks. That comes to 225 notables that we worked with over the last year. Um, of those, we were able to connect 83. That works out to just over 1/3 of the notables. So again, considering how obscure these countries were and how none of us knew anything about these countries, I think that's pretty impressive. And that was with just 3 weeks per country. I think if we were given more time, we'd probably be able to have connected even more.
So I've dropped that
So
link for that page into the live
good.
chat if anybody's
Okay.
interested in going there.
Yeah. And this is basically the replacement page for the tour. So instead of having to go, um, to all 15 of the different countries, which you can, and they're still going to be there. But this will be kind of a summary page that you can go to if you'd like to continue working on this project. The tour itself is officially over, but people are free to continue working. We want to get these remaining individuals connected and improve upon the profiles that we do have connected. So we certainly welcome people to come in and do what they can. Um, and one, this is a little off track here, but I do want to mention also that we had people from around the world working on this project. Um, Darren's been one of our most active members. He's from New Zealand. I'm from the United States, but we have an individual from Canada. We've had individuals from England. We had individuals from Argentina. We had individuals from Panama. we had people from all over the world. We actually had very few Americans working on this project. So although WikiTree has a very kind of lopsided American-based membership, this was actually a global project, not only in regards to the project itself, but in regards to the individuals who were working on it. So that was pretty cool as well. Just a little side note there. Um, in a it, Momentarily, once we are done, because I realize I forgot to add the link here, but right here it says our unconnected notables. I'm going to take you to that page. There will be a link here,
And
and
I've
I
added
just
it
now
to the
saved
live
it.
chat.
Yeah, I just realized I forgot to put the link on there, but I will. But let's look at our successful connections first. Um, these individuals, you can um, you can click on each one of them. It'll take you to their page. I'll click on a few to show you. These are listed chronologically. I would have done it differently had I known we were going to have so many, but with 83 individuals, I'm not going to go back and change it. But one thing you can do if you're not familiar with tables, up at the top, you can sort by any column. So if you want to see individuals from a particular nation, just click those arrows and now they're listed uh, by nation. So you can sort by birth date, you can sort by death date, you can alphabetically, it'll alphabetize them by first name because I don't have a last name column, but or you can search by their claim to fame. But you'll see some famous names here. Here's Anwar Sadat from Egypt that we connected. We've got athletes, we've got scientists, we've got actresses. Here we've got the current Prime Minister of Greece. We've got this individual here was the first black man to win a gold medal. He was from in the Olympics. He was from Haiti. We had quite a few Olympic athletes on our list. Um, we have the author of Born Free. I know that movie was one of my grandmother's favorite movies when I was growing up, so I was very familiar with her. We've got actress Lupita Nyong'o. Um, let's see who else you might recognize here as I'm going down the list fairly quickly. Um, we've got here's Jimmy Choo from he's the fashion designer. We've got actress Michelle Yeoh. We were in Malaysia when she won the Academy, or right after she won the Academy Award. So it was fun getting her connected. Um, and we got Rod Carew, the baseball player. We've got this individual here uh, was a social activist in South Korea, but he had to he was went into exile in the United States, became the first Korean person to become an American citizen, and he was
Yeah.
also the first Korean to received his medical doctorate in the United States. We've got the Queen of Afghanistan, who was actually born in Syria. We've got the producer of the Halloween film franchise. So quite a few interesting characters. But let me go over a couple of them. And again, I'm sorry if scrolling so fast is making people dizzy, but so we have, yeah, let me. So right here, we've got Violet Jessup. Um, this profile was created by Aowen back in 2013, and I didn't know that when I selected this person, so I was a little surprised to see Aowen's name on her profile, but she had been unable to get her connected. We did, but Violet Jessup was a nurse who was aboard the Titanic when it sank. She survived. Um, but she then went on to two other ships, the Britannica, and I'm forgetting the other one. It doesn't say right here, but I'm going to go back where it says it. Yeah, the Britannic and the Olympic. Both of them also sunk. So she was on three different shipwrecks and survived all three. But I would have recommended that she stop taking cruises. And if I were a friend of hers, I certainly would not be traveling with her. But I don't know that anybody else could actually make that claim that to have survived three major shipwrecks like that. Um, but we were able to connect her. She was, um, I believe, I want to say she was had some Irish roots. I know she had some English connections. Let me see if I can find that right here. Oh, an Australian. Yeah, we went through Australia to connect her, and then into the United States. So that's one thing also that we found was that so she was from Argentina, but with most of these people, because there's so few Argentinian profiles on WikiTree currently, we had to find family members that left Argentina. So either went to the United States or to one of the Western European countries. And that's not just for Argentina, but that was for all of the countries. Our goal was to find some relative had who had left the country, because we could track back and get 500 relatives in their native country, but if we don't have any of them on WikiTree currently, that doesn't do us much good. Let's see, who else did I
Yes,
want to show you
but it
here?
will help anyone from Argentina.
Yes. Hmm.
Like they might be able to connect into the family that we've created.
Yes,
Which
absolutely. And
is
that's the purpose is the purpose of this project is we want to get as many of those profiles up so that again somebody can come back later on and make the connection. I was listening to Emma earlier talking on her Black Heritage um, presentation that she did, and she mentioned that back when the Black Heritage Project started, they didn't have a lot of African American profiles to connect to. But now that they've been up for several years, they now find that when they get an African American profile that they need to connect, they often are able to find family members, African American family members to connect to, which again they weren't able to do in the beginning. So we're hoping to do that same kind of thing with a lot of these countries. We may not have those connections now, but if we add another 50 profiles, we can then somebody else will come along and actually be able to connect directly without having to leave their home country. So this individual here, Faustin Workus, he was my favorite, I think. Faustin Workus was a Marine during um, the era between World War I and World War II. Um, and he was stationed in Haiti. And somehow or another, he met the queen of a small Haitian island west of the main island. It was an island called Lagonave, I believe is how it's pronounced. But he somehow again met the queen of the island, and she took a fancy to him, and she made him her king. They weren't married, so there was apparently no romantic relationship there. But for 3 years, he served as the king of this island until the Marines said his time was up and he needed to come home. So he resigned as king and went home and carried out a normal life in back in the United States. So he just um, kind of randomly got to be king of an island for 3 years. And it's just to me that's just such an unusual story. I really enjoyed that. And again, he was fairly easy to connect because he was from, I believe he was born in Pennsylvania and lived in Detroit for a while. So his records were all, fairly easy to connect. Got him connected pretty fast. But his name was King Faustin II. I don't know who King Faustin the First was, but he was King Faustin II of Lagonev. And let's see, there was one more. Let's see. And there's so many to go through. Oh, and this individual was a little bit interesting. This was Fred Heldenstein. I was surprised we were able to get him connected because he was a rather obscure figure. And he has a solitary claim to fame. In 1930, no, I'm sorry, 1924, he won an Olympic gold medal. And that gold medal was in sculpting. Apparently, in the 1920s, they had they gave out gold medals for artwork, and he created a sculpture. I believe it was a woman's bust, and he won first place, got the gold medal. and then went home back into obscurity. He never did any other sculptures of note. Um, I had never heard, even though I had spent extensive time working on the Olympics project for WikiTree, even though I actually worked the Olympics back in 1984 when they were in Los Angeles. I have quite a bit of knowledge of the Olympics, but I had never been aware that they gave awards for artwork. And again, that was his sole uh, claim to fame. I don't know if we have a picture of the artwork. No, we don't. We did have some pictures, but they didn't make it onto his page. Um, but he was from Luxembourg, so it, he in fact, I'm looking here. Let's see if we can figure out quickly where yeah, so he was connected through the United States. Um, I wish there was a quicker way I could see who his immigrant ancestor was. Yeah, so here we are. Um, Family went to Cheyenne, Colorado, Cheyenne County, Colorado. So we went connect him through a few Luxembourgian relatives, and then on to Colorado. So those are just some of the interesting characters. Now, I mentioned this next page I'm going to take you to. Okay, I think I have to go back a page. Nope, I'm going to close that out, and I'm going to go back here. Again, thought I had the link up, but I don't, so I'm going to go the long way. But this will all be linked very shortly. Okay, so this page here is our 15 Nations Unconnected page. And these are all the individuals that we have not been able to connect. And I'm just going to scroll through this fairly quickly so you can see the diversity. But if you would like to come to this page and try to connect one of these individuals, um, it would be fantastic. We'd like to get as many of these as possible connected. And I've categorized these into broad categories. We had a number of royalty members of royalty throughout the tour. We only have one that was not connected, and that was the King of Haiti. Haiti only had one king. He led a revolution of slaves. He became king and then was overthrown. His family went to exile in, I believe, France. I could be wrong about that. But he was executed in 1820. So, but he is the one and only king of Haiti. And you would think, being a royal family, it would be easy to connect them. But there actually wasn't a whole lot of information about his family available that we were able to find. We then have political leaders. We're starting with leaders of the past. Political leaders were surprisingly hard to connect, and I think that's because political leaders historically, unlike in the United States and some Western nations, they live very private lives. They don't want the public to know about their private lives because it interferes with the mystique that they're trying to create about themselves. That's one of the problems American presidents have. Joe Biden right now has a son that has gotten him into some trouble. I remember going all the way back to Jimmy Carter and um, some of his colorful relatives. Bill Clinton, or I believe it was Hillary Clinton, maybe, that had a brother, maybe both of them. I think both of them had brothers that got them into some hot water. So the more you keep your family private, the easier it is to keep the mystique of being an all powerful leader, particularly if you're a dictator, etc. So we've got a number of former leaders. We've got Nasser of Egypt. We've got UN Secretary Boutros Ghali. Um, we've got Manuel Noriega of Panama. And then we have the second section of leaders. These are the current leaders of each of the countries, the presidents, the prime ministers. Um, you've got Argentina, Cameroon, Egypt, Greece, president of Estonia, prime minister of Estonia, prime minister of Haiti, India, Kenya, Malaysia, Panama, South Korea. There's Assad of Syria. You've got Zelensky of the Ukraine, and Prime Minister Shmyhal of Ukraine. I wasn't even aware that Ukraine had a prime minister. He keeps rather low profile, apparently. Um, but all of these need to be connected. We've got activists and reformers. These are people that played a significant role in the politics, but generally did not actually hold political office. We've got the first African woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize. She's not yet connected. We've got some artists. The artists include animators and cartoonists. We've got only one business leader. He's the founder of Samsung. Um, a lot of prominent people in his family, but again, not connected to the tree. Entertainers. We've got cabaret artists, we've got actors and actresses, we've got filmmakers, we've got musicians. Um, Most of these are going to be people you don't recognize, although you may, if you're a real film buff, know some of them. This woman here, Choi Eun-hee, a very interesting story. She was one of the most famous actresses in South Korea until she got kidnapped by North Korea and was taken by the Kim family to North Korea and forced to make movies for North Korea for about 10 years until she finally escaped and went back to the South. But I found that to be a very interesting story that they just kidnapped her and made her be a movie star for their country. It's a very different world they live in over there. Um, we have Mercedes Sosa is a very well-known folk singer from Argentina. A lot of people worked on her profile, but we weren't able to make a connection. We've got Vangelis. He's the composer of Chariots of Fire. We have let's see, anybody else you'd recognize? Not Avo. We got here Wyclef Jean, um, famous Haitian. Um, I believe he was with the Fugees, if I recall. You can correct me if I'm wrong there, but he ran for president at one point of Haiti. Some scientists and explorers. There's a whole variety of people here. We've got the inventor of the pap smear. We've got the inventor of the spark plug. We've got several. No, as I said, we've got 5 different uh, uh, astronauts here, including Kalpana Chawla. She was on the shuttle mission that exploded over Texas and was killed in that. Love to get her connected if we could. And just to read the countries that we've got here, we've got Cameroon, Ukraine, Syria, India, and Malaysia. I had no idea that Cameroon had sent somebody into space, um, or that any of these other countries, for that matter, Syria, Malaysia.
And we're down to
So
about 6 minutes left. So
okay, wrap
I
it
didn't
up
know if you
here.
wanted to cover anything else.
Yeah, we'll wrap this up and should be just about right on time then. We've got the head of the Olympic Games. We've got the first Olympic medal winner. We got a chess player, field hockey players, footballers, badminton players. We have Roberto Duran, the boxer. We have a couple other modern Olympic stars, writers and journalists, poets, and then a category that I call miscellaneous, but it turns out that these are mostly religious leaders. We do have a yoga master. We've got a individual known as the Pope of Voodoo in Haiti. So again, just a really wide variety. So the last thing that I want to talk about, well, so for the months of November and December, this is what we're going to be working on, is trying to go back and get some of these individuals connected. Again, we have 83 connected so far out of 25. I'd like to get that. If we could get that up to 100, that would be before the end of the year. That would be absolutely fantastic. And I think now that we've have more experience, we're going to be able to do that. Some of these that we might not have known what we were doing early on may not be so difficult as we go back. So the last thing that I'm going to show you, and we're not going to talk much of this because this is what my presentation tonight at, I believe it's 10 o'clock Eastern time, or is it 9 o'clock Eastern time? With the time change and the thing, I've got my times off. This is our new global project, and right now it says global proposal, but it will say global project. Once we open it up, it's a proposal because it's still a work in progress.
So it's at
But
10 p.m. Eastern, and I'm
it's 10
dropping
p.m. Eastern.
the link into the chat.
Okay. 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. my time, which would have been 10 p.m. except we turned the clock back. So, um, so it's a little confusing. But the global proposal, that's what I'll be talking about tonight. Sandy Patek is going to be on with me, and we're going to take you through piece by piece and show you everything that is coming. But for those that haven't heard, the global proposal, the global project is going to be a project that incorporates sub-projects for every country of the world. So we are going to have 195 sub-projects. Now, if there is a project already available, our Canada project, our Australia project, etc., those projects will still be in place. We're not going to substitute those. We will just provide links to those. But we only have, I believe it's about 18 countries that have their own projects right now. So that leaves a whole lot of countries that don't have projects. So as of January 1st, the vast majority of them will have projects. I'm not sure if we'll have them all up by January 1st, but the global project will open on January 1st. We will have links to all of those nations. And tonight I'm going to walk you through a couple of the project profiles that we've already got up and created so you can see exactly what we're talking about, what they'll entail. And I will also say if you have a country that you are interested in, we need 195 project leaders. We need individuals that are willing to help us out, or at least co-leaders. We don't have to take on the whole project by yourself, but um, we need volunteers. So after watching tonight, if you're interested, you drop me an email. Let me know what country you'd like to assist with, and we'll see about getting you in place. But that's something real exciting, and it's a major undertaking, but I think it's going to really help kind of boost WikiTree up to the next notch as far as its global presence goes. It'll be something that, as far as I know, I've never seen on any other websites. There's a couple that have similar that have come close, but nothing quite like what we're doing here. So that'll be exciting for all of us. And again, if you want to tune in tonight, we'll walk you through it step by step and show you exactly what's going on and what we're going to be doing. Okay, so we've only got a couple minutes, almost done here.
That was a great presentation, David. Thank you so much for all the
very
work
good.
that you've done.
And it's been a great experience.
Yeah,
going through these 15 nations
Darren's
with
been
you.
Amazing, and I think we've really grown a lot as researchers and genealogists.
But yeah, we definitely need,
and maybe in another year. It's been too hard to sustain to do a whole nother year right now. But maybe in 2025 we'll have something else come up similar. But in the meantime, we're going to work on this global project, and we'll have periodic challenges coming up. But we have worked straight through. We've not had a day off since January 1st as far as this project goes. So it's been a challenge from a time consideration, if nothing else.
Well, it was definitely well worth it, and it's been wonderful to watch where everybody's gone and how much you guys have accomplished. So like I said, I added the link to the global project presentation is in the chat. If you guys want to kind of get that set up and to watch that later on. And next up on the WikiTree Day schedule is WikiTree Stats with Greg Clark and the WikiTree Day wrap up. So you guys might want to tune into that. Notables Project is a pre-recorded presentation that's all going on at the same time. So
With me.
those are your options for coming up next.
If you're interested in notables, our show is pre-recorded, but Scott and I will talk all about what notables are about, and particularly about living notables, which I know a lot of people have questions on. So if you're one of those people, tune in. We'll try to answer your questions on those.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll
Thank
see you
you.
around.